Association of Pakistani Physicians in North America, Medical Education, Research, International Training, and Transfer Technology, or APPNA MERIT Subcommittee. I would like to welcome all of you for the next in our series of webinars. And the people who regularly join us, they know that we have this meeting scheduled every other Saturday, so every 2 weeks. It's 12 in the US Eastern Time, and I think 9 p.m. in Pakistan, and relative time from wherever else you're joining from. My name is Sarfraz Hasni, and I'm the Director of Lupus Clinical Research at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. And I'm the moderator for this meeting. And then we have panel discussions joined by Dr. Rosaire and Dr. Sarwat, like always. And the technical support for these webinars are provided by Waleed and his team. So thank all of the regular people for joining. But today we have the honor to welcome our colleagues from Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology to talk about the clinical research landscape, challenges and opportunities in Pakistan. So we are joined by Professor Anjum Jalal, who's the Executive Director of Punjab Institute of Cardiology. He is a graduate of King Edward Medical College and had an FCPS and FRCS trained in cardiothoracic surgery at King's College Hospital, London, and Bristol Royal Infirmary, and at the Cardiothoracic Centre of Liverpool, UK. He played a key role in the establishment of cardiac surgery services at Multan, Rawalpindi, and Faisalabad, and served as Executive Director and Professor of Cardiac Surgery at FIC and RIC. He's currently serving as the Executive Director of the Punjab Institute of Cardiology in Lahore and Dean of the Cardiac Surgery at College of Physicians and Surgeons, Pakistan. And he has a passion for training of cardiac surgeons and trained over 25 cardiac surgeons here. He has published over 40 papers in international journal, and one of his major achievements with a big impact in the establishment of cardiac surgery database with a record of over 50,000 patients. He is also on the editorial board of several national and international journals, and his special interests are in coronary artery bypass, valve repair, aortic surgery, and surgery for disorders of grown-up congenital heart disease, or GUCH. Then the other colleague we are joined by is Dr. Talha Bin Nazir. He's the associate professor of cardiology and a consultant cardiologist and head of cardiac electrophysiology at Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology. He is a healthcare professional with more than 15 years of experience. He's an associate professor, as I've mentioned, at the Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology. And he is a pioneer in electrophysiology and device services at the Institute, and established the atrial fibrillation catheter ablation services in Pakistan, along with resynchronization therapy with native conduction system. He has served as a General Secretary for Pakistan Heart Rhythm Society. At the national level, he completed a fellowship in cardiac electrophysiology from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, UK. Before I hand it over to Professor Anjum Jalal and Dr. Talha Bin Nazir, just a couple of reminders is that once we complete these sessions, they are available within a very short time period on our YouTube channel. In addition, we also have created a resource library for digital health and clinical research, and please join the WhatsApp groups of these two respected resources, which is a plethora of resources collected by Dr. Rosaire and others. So I welcome all of you to do that. If you have any question and answers, please post it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And as you are all introducing yourself in the chat, please put down where you are from and what you do. With that, I will now request Professor Anjum Jalal to please take it over. Again, thank you for both of you for joining us and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. So on behalf of APPNA MERIT, again, I welcome you and thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. It just so happened that about a month ago, I was invited to be the part of this webinar, and at that time I was heading Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology. But while we were all planning everything, I was posted at Punjab Institute of Cardiology, and I had to go ahead to and join it in a sort of a hurried manner. In the meantime, I then requested Dr. Talha to actually present all this introduction to the Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology. However, uh, it's a great pleasure for me, and it's an honor as well. My first interaction with APPNA was as a student of King Edward Medical College, and at our annual alumni event, which was used to be a very important event for all of us. We used to actually receive the delegates from North America, and we always considered it a great honor for all of us. Today, I am actually talking to all of these colleagues, which is indeed it gives me immense pleasure and gives us a lot of a privilege to actually share our experience from Pakistan. If you ask me to summarize, Pakistan is a country of paradoxes. So you will find very interesting features here. This short presentation, I would like to summarize some of these. And you can imagine how many big paradoxes you can actually experience when you work here. This is a view of Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology, and next to it is a satellite image. It is just opposite to the Noor Khan Air Base, which used to be previously the main airport of Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Now it is just an air base. And when I joined Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology early in 2013 as head of cardiac surgery, I could see all the planes taking off and landing from my office. But then the country was actually faced with a lot of terrorism, and then big walls were built between the two institutions. If you look at the figures which I have summarized here for Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology, these are big numbers. We see more than 900,000 patients in OPD every year. And the Institute generally does more than 10,000 angiographies with more than 4,000 primary PCIs, including primary PCI, and roughly around 1,300 open heart surgeries. By all definitions, it's a very high volume center. It is affiliated with the College of Physicians and Surgeons for postgraduate training, and also with University of Health Sciences for various research degrees. It is recognized by Pakistan Medical and Dental Council and Punjab Healthcare Commission, which are the regulatory bodies. Next slide, please. When we speak about the clinical research landscape, I believe that there are various prerequisites to conduct clinical research. The first is proper human resource. The second is patients. Three is building and equipment. Four is variety of diseases. Then we need to have adequate systems for doing the research, and that includes having adequate budget, institutional review, system for institutional review, some kind of ethical review committee or institutional review board. Then there is extremely important factor that we need to have network with other stakeholders and approval of regulatory authorities. After all that, in these days' time, we must have an electronic, robust data handling system, without which nobody is going to believe our data. And once we actually have all these databases or data handling systems, we need to have a system of access to database for validation process, so that if any international journal wants to counter check the validity of data, they should have that facility. Now, if you look at the human resource of Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology, There are more than 1,000 employees here, and which include nearly 40 uh, faculty members, senior faculty members, more than 80 postgraduate trainees, several other doctors in administration and hospital management, large number of nurses, paramedics, etc. The number of patients are reflected again here at the bottom, which shows actually a huge number of patients. So we have sufficient human resource and we have sufficient number of patients. Building and equipment, I will show in next few slides. Here we take pride as one of the best institutes in Pakistan because in terms of having building, it has very well maintained modern building with good aesthetic sense. And since this is the cardiac center which was built probably after all others in Punjab, so its equipment is rather more updated and relatively new. Then comes the variety of diseases. It's so interesting that when you work in Pakistan, especially in one of the cardiac institutions, you see those patients even which many of our colleagues in the Western world don't see in their career. It's just because the facilities are few. There are only 6 big cardiac centers in Punjab with a huge population. So all the patients who require surgery or intervention, they come to these 6 places. So there is no dilution of any of these diseases. And since a bulk of patient comes there, if you start doing something extraordinary with good results, all the patients from the rest of areas start coming there. So when I, for example, if I say that I usually do more than 30 repairs of ruptured sinus of Valsalva, it will be hard to believe for many of my colleagues in UK who trained with me, and they probably saw one or two in the whole career. In terms of budget, Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology has always been the privilege to have adequate budget. We receive nearly 2.5 billion rupees from the government, and we also generate a sufficient amount of money from health card and also from some paying patients. Although the ratio between paying and free patients is very small, we do just 10 to 15% paying patients, whereas more than 80% patients are done free of charge. Either they are paid from the universal health insurance scheme, which is called health card, or by the government budget. Next slide, please. Now, this actually gives you the few visuals of our setup. This is the entrance of our operating theater complex. If you look at that, it is a relatively modern setup with 4 modular operation theaters. Then we have one hybrid cath lab where we can operate and do intervention simultaneously, and 3 conventional cath labs. Next, please. We have 3 Tesla MRI machine and recently installed a 640 slice CT scan. We have a backup of very good radiologist and cardiac imaging team. And we also have the support from the actual vendors of all these machines. Then we receive experts from other countries also to train our manpower. Both of these machines are utilized quite decently in the last 2 years. Now we have a good networking system, and we do have a very good hospital information system, which is backed up with high-profile servers. And then there are certain peculiar things which are usually not seen in Pakistan. For example, we have a pneumatic system for transportation of blood samples and other lab samples. We have on-site uh, uh, mortuary and incinerator, waste disposal is a major issue in Pakistan, and Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology has its own system for waste disposal. We also have installed an oxygen extraction plant. When it was installed in 2015 or 2016, most of the people were speculative whether we really need it or not, because it's a big city and there is no difficulty in supply of liquid oxygen. But when the COVID came in, then everybody realized the importance of having on-site oxygen extraction plants. And we actually supplied the oxygen cylinders to other institutions in the city. Next slide, please. We have paid a lot of attention on aesthetics. We got good horticulture facility. Then for the mothers working here, there is a daycare center for children, which is very well looked after. So all the ancillary sports and various other important things which you see in the developed world, we have tried to develop here as well to some extent. Next, please. Now, when we come to the other important component of ethical review, uh, I reviewed the ethical review committee after becoming the executive director in 2020, and it is a very robust committee. It consists of cardiologists, cardiac surgeons, radiologists, and anesthetists, and a notable statistician with extensive experience of biomedical research. We have healthcare managers on it, and a notable scholar. Many of those people who have interest in Urdu literature may know him, Colonel Abdal Bela. He is part of the ethical review committee. Then we have a lawyer and other important members. Another very important thing which I'm passionate about is to have gender parity and equal opportunity for both male and female employees. And we have ensured that it reflects on all the committees of the hospital. So if you look at the ethical review committee, you will see nearly 50% are our female members. We follow the conduct of clinical trial guidelines issued by the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. They have visited our site because we started a few international trials, and one of the prerequisites was to get the permission from the Drug Regulatory Authority and their subcommittee of bioethical issues. And they visited us and granted the permission to conduct all these studies. Next, please. In terms of data handling systems, we have a very good HIMS, and which actually takes the record of all the OPD and inpatient department patients' data, all admissions, discharge, and their usual routine progress is entered into their record. There is an online access to the lab results as well as access to the cardiac imaging modalities also. The hospital is almost ready to become paperless. It will depend on the government policy as well, because slowly the government is also going in that direction. At the moment, we are obliged to keep the hard copies of everything as well, just as a requirement from the regulatory authorities. Once that is over, probably the RIC would be the first cardiac center which can go paperless. Cardiac surgery database system is uh, very closer to my heart. It's an online database system. I actually developed it in 2003 after seeing the dendrites in UK, and it was built on exactly on the same lines. And at that time, I was working in Saudi Arabia, and I had plenty of time and money to invest in it. So I had the services of one of the best software designers We built that software and tried to convince all our colleagues in Pakistan, but they were all very speculative about the security of their data. And nobody was brave enough to share their results. So they were scared that their results would not remain confidential. But I must appreciate Armed Forces Institute of Cardiology because they were the first to join us, and they have kept all the records since 2005 onwards. Then in 2007, when I came back to Pakistan, I had the privilege to work in different institutions, and wherever I went, I got them online. And finally, we built in the last 3 years, we have become totally web-based. So it's no more a desktop version. And at the moment, there are more than 50,000 patient records. Each patient record contains more than 400 variables. And these include all the variables which are used in risk scoring system, which we call Euroscore 2. And that system also keeps the record of all the complications and outcomes. So system is so user friendly that everybody who participates in that has the flexibility to access their data whenever they want, and they can actually download any kind of combination of variables after building a query which is done in simple ordinary language instead of any complex computer jargon, and they would get the data in the form of access, so they can use it for research purpose. Now we are at a stage where we are going to start external validation of data. All the participating centers would nominate one person, and we will go and see each and every institution and check their validity. Internal validity is an important step for all of this. Then we are also part of the national registries. One of the most important is Cardiac Registry of Pakistan, which is called Prof, and that keeps the record of all the intervention. Next, please. Now, let me tell you briefly about my journey of working in Pakistan, because most of my colleagues in North America and abroad, they always have speculations about how difficult or how easy it is to work in this country. So I came back to Pakistan after spending nearly 10 years abroad. The first station was Chaudhry Parvez Ali Institute of Cardiology in Multan, where I served for 6 years, and this was a new center. So we built it from scratch. Then in 2013, this new center came up in Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology, and there I worked for nearly 3 years, and I was then appointed the chief executive of Faisalabad Institute of Cardiology. Again, it was in early stages, so I spent 5 years there as head of institution and head of surgery, and established all those things which I have mentioned here in Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology. And then I came back again to Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology in 2020 and spent nearly 3 years as head of that institution. And just 2 weeks ago, I've been posted at Punjab Institute of Cardiology, where the challenges are rather bigger because it's a much bigger institution and older than all others. So the infrastructure is old, and some of the standard routines are missing, which we need to establish here. But this institution has the biggest potential than any other because of its location as well as its budget, and all the opportunities it is offering are immense. So let me see how I can serve here and if I could create any positive difference here. The next slide, please. Just a few tips to contribute best in Pakistan. Anybody who wants to come back, the first very important thing is the clarity of objective. If you want to come to Pakistan to earn a lot of money, you should have this clear objective in your mind, and you will earn a lot of money. If you have a clarity that you want to be an academician and you want to train people and work in government setup, you will have plenty of opportunity there. But then you will have the whole package and you will not earn much, but the impact of your work will be huge, will be unimaginable. And to achieve that, you need a very high degree of resilience. Resilience is most important thing. I always tell my colleagues that we actually spread seeds here and there and wait for the correct timing and correct. At the same time, we also wait for the rain to come at the right time, and all these seeds would grow. They are not lost. But you have to survive till then. If you don't stay till then, you give up, then it's unlikely to create any difference. The other important thing is if you wish to work in this setup, you must have in depth understanding of rules and regulations. Because that is the biggest power which I have experienced in my stay in Pakistan. Anybody who comes to you with any particular intention or agenda can bully you, can scare you, intimidate you, but if you know the rules and regulations, this thing becomes totally unimportant. And people will not touch you if you are actually following those. In this pursuit, you have to ignore all the political differences in the society. It is 15 years, more than 15 years in Pakistan. And I have served at the highest level of all these institutions. During that period, different political parties came into power and different governments came. More than a dozen secretaries of health changed, several health ministers changed. But actually, nobody bothered me. And we always had very good response because when you actually tell them that whatever you are doing is in the greater benefit of the people and that will give them a leverage, then everybody agrees to that. So you should have a very clear idea that the bureaucracy as well as the politicians, they want to have a good name in society. And if any of your efforts can create that, they will be on your side. Then you must have the ability to innovate and think out of box. You will have big challenges. You cannot simply copy paste from the Western experience. You will always have big hurdles. And the recent last 2 years have been so difficult to run institutions because of supply chain issues. And we tackled with all of them by the grace of God. None of the cardiac institutions stopped its service despite having serious shortages of various medicines and imported gadgets, valves, oxygenators, different types of catheters. So we had all sorts of difficulties, but still we managed just because of our ability to think out of box. The last thing which was taught to me by my teacher and mentor, Professor Masood Chima, that we must have strong faith in the value of good work. The value of good work is never lost. That is something which we must believe in and we must practice. The next thing. Next slide, please. So we should not give up. And in this country, there are plenty of opportunities. They appear like challenges, but these are all opportunities. I can tell you in last 3 years at Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology, we achieved a lot of good things. We were all doing conventional coronary intervention. We were doing coronary bypass. We were doing valve replacements. But in last 3 years, me and my team, we decided to go beyond those limits. So we started the aortic surgery program, and we are proud of that. We did a lot of valve sparing root replacements and aortic dissections with exceptional results. One of my colleagues, I think he must be here amongst the participants, Dr. Asim Javed, he played a key role in starting the stroke intervention program. And this is one of the unique kind in this country. We acted as a catalyst and other institutions started doing it. Dr. Talha developed the electrophysiology service from the ordinary role of electrophysiologist of doing just the pacemaker implantation. Now he is doing all kinds of ablations and EP studies. So we added so many things, including surgery for kids and even for the very young ones, which were a big no in big cardiac institutions and were all referred to children's hospitals, which are just a few in number. And we decided that we should provide that service also, and we achieved that. Now we are doing nearly 300 operations for infants and young kids. So, my dear friends, I would stop here and leave with Talha to share some of the figures and actual numbers, what the Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology is doing these days.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Anjum Jalal, for a very enlightening and inspiring, I would say, talk. And Dr. Talha, please take it over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hasni, and thank you as always, Professor Jalal. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If there is any problem, I'm happy to actually just amend it. I'm just going to bring my screen sharing up. So, is the screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very grateful to actually the Societies of North America and Professor Anjum for actually giving me the opportunity to be part of this, and it's really an honor. I would want to elaborate further with what Professor Anjum Jalal Saab has actually said, and indeed he's put it really beautifully in front of us, and it tells a lot about, I'm sure, him, his leadership, as well as the institution, and the way his personality is. It's nurtured us as well to be better human beings and physicians, obviously. So this is our institution. This is the moment when you enter the institution. This is the glimpse you get of it, and believe me, it's something which we always take great pride in. And what I would wish to talk about is just going into the slight specifics of clinical achievements, the academics, and some of the research work that we have been doing at our institution. So keeping in mind that in 2013, this institution had started, these are the specialities that we have: cardiac surgery, the pediatric cardiology, interventional, which has coronary and structural, peripheral, and the stroke intervention, the neurointervention, and cardiac imaging, electrophysiology. And interestingly, we have the obstetrics and gynecology services, because we strongly believe that lots of these patients with common cardiac ailments are actually found difficult to be managed in the normal community hospitals. So we thought it was very important to have this service available to everyone in the Twin Cities. So really, what are the achievements that we've been having? So interventional cardiology currently being headed by Dr. Ahsan Javed, and we're very fortunate to have him. And he's not only a senior to us, he's more of a elder brother to us, who always, I think, provides a full platform to all his colleagues. And moreover, at the same time, we've been very fortunate to have Professor Anjum Jalal in the past 3 years, and before so Dr. Azam Mahmood as well, who was actually very supportive in taking the institution forward. So we take great pride in saying that we are actually the first public hospital to offer 24/7 primary PCI services, and this is something that we have been doing for the past many years. Specifically in around about 2016-17, we started this, and with just 3 interventional cardiologists at that time, this service was even started, because we felt this is probably one of the cornerstones and we should offer it to the major cities. So as we speak, we're doing almost about 4,000 primary PCIs per year, and which I think is quite a significant amount. And considering the way, the quality with which this is offered is amazing. Dr. Asim has really single-handedly taken this or introduced this stroke intervention, which we're indebted to him, because this is something that what if someone had an acute ischemic stroke, what would we do? We would be just giving thrombolysis or the usual conservative therapies. But with now him making this available, the 24/7 acute mechanical thrombectomy and stroke intervention, which means giving the TPA, we're running this throughout the whole year. And it's wonderful that we've got a wonderful team of interventionists, and they are doing a great performance throughout. So we receive almost now, as we speak, 25 stroke codes per day, and out of which because we are very selective about in whom we undertake actually mechanical thrombectomy. So usually we end up with 2 to 3 mechanical thrombectomies per day, accounting for a significant number throughout the year. And now we've got a significant amount of data, and it's very much at par with the international data, and it gives us great pride to have this service. And indeed, I'm sure you all would recognize it's a great service to the community. Furthermore, we're just not doing simple coronary PCI. We're doing complex percutaneous coronary intervention with adjunctive technologies such as the rotoablation, advanced intravascular imaging such as the IVUS, the optical coherence tomography. In addition, we're doing obviously complex lesions, bifurcation lesions, and obviously retrograde, antegrade approaches. Peripheral intervention, again, considering that it's almost a country of 240 million, we have very limited services that offer this service of peripheral intervention. So we've, with, again, the team led by Dr. Asim, again, it was his initiative to take this further, and we've been very fortunate to have elective and emergency interventions for critical limb ischemia. We've even done uterine embolizations. We've also we've done quite a few procedures of implanting IVC, retrievable IVC filters for those who require it on merit basis. As we speak, we've done almost about more than 150 carotid interventions, which obviously are elective ones that we do. Not only that, we also have utilized the Impella support to provide the hemodynamic stability to the patients. Unfortunately, and in recent times, there has been a problem with the registration, so therefore supplies have been interrupted in between, but we are trying to get through it. But indeed, as you can understand, high-risk PCIs having such a device at hand with the appropriate expertise is actually a treat for the patients and the community. We do have the consoles. It's just a matter of having the disposables, and inshallah we hope to have them in the near future, and we can restart this whole process of utilizing them where needed. So not only in interventional cardiology, we're doing the coronary intervention, but we've also, we've started the structural cardiac intervention, and we are doing almost more than 80 interventions per year regarding in this, particularly with the following basically interventions. We take great pride in actually claiming that we have just done the first TAVR very recently, and we are the first public hospital not to just perform 1 or 2 TAVRs, but actually performing it as a regular service in Pakistan. And you can imagine it's a very costly thing, but again, if the funds have been utilized well by the management, which Professor Anjum has been very kind and helped us out with, I think we can do miracles for this nation over here. We also take great pride in having performed the first mitra clip that was done a few years back, keeping in mind that it was one of the novelty. And this is not only in Pakistan, it's in South Asia, actually. It was the first mitra clip done at the institution at that time. It's just the registration process, the regulations have been changing over time, and this needs to get registered, and hopefully, inshallah, we should be having this along with us in the country in the very near future as well. Obviously, the bulk being of interventions related to structural are those of mitral commissurotomy, and we're very happy to say we have a very we've got a handful of cardiologists, interventionists who are very well trained. Alhamdulillah, we're actually achieving very good results for this structural intervention. On the horizon, inshallah, in the very, very near future, we plan to take out the left atrial appendage occlusion, and this we hope to get done in this next couple of weeks, which again, having a provision of a sort, having the expertise, having the equipment for those who really require it, regardless of their financial backgrounds, I think, again, it's a huge service to the community at large. Cardiac surgery, Professor Anjum Jalal Sahab has actually already mentioned about the major points in surgery. However, I must say we were very fortunate. I remember I joined the institution back in 2013, and I didn't know Professor Anjum Jalal then. But fortunately, he was the head of cardiac surgery then for the institution, and really he's an amazing person. And even then, I think the foundations that were laid down, we still 10 years down the line, 13 years down the line, we actually see how it's paying dividends. So the services, the first surgery, proudly, Professor Anjum was the first one to conduct them. Till to date, we've done over 10,000 surgeries, which you can see the breakdown of bypass, coronary bypass surgeries, over 6,000, valve replacements, valve repairs, almost about 2,000, considering it's the mitral, the aortic, the dual valve replacements, complex aortic surgeries, root surgeries, sparing the valve, non-sparing the valve, almost about 175. Congenital surgeries as well, almost touching 2,000, and obviously the other surgeries such as myomectomy and roofing and hybrid surgeries that were coming in. So indeed, this is a great service. We do have wonderful laminar operation theaters, and we've also got the hybrid. It's always a debate whether it's a hybrid lab or is it a hybrid OR, but we have also got the facility of that now, and wherever needed, that is utilized. For pediatric cardiology, we have currently, so the services were started back in 2015. As we can see that we're doing almost around about, as we speak, almost 300 diagnostic interventions per year, accounting for almost more than 2,800. And in terms of therapy, again, similar numbers, 300 per year, basically structural interventions. Keeping in mind that we've really had one pediatric cardiologist, and in the interim we had two. Currently we've got also two senior pediatric cardiologists along with some specialist registrars. So I think the team is doing a marvelous job. They're working round the clock, and I think, again, as we know that there's a huge burden of pediatric patients in the population, and there's a scarcity of these pediatric cardiologists and especially pediatric surgeons. So obviously the corrective surgeries, the corrective interventions, these are much required in our population. So what do these include? They include the ASD device occlusions, the VSD device occlusions, the VSR device occlusions. It's not only the defects, it's the ventricular septal ruptures that have been occluded with devices, and quite successfully as well. The PDA device occlusions, PDA stenting has been there, stenting of the coarctations, aortic coarctations, MATCA coilings and occlusions, aortic valvuloplasties, pulmonary valvuloplasties, and interestingly, perventricular VSD device occlusion, which is quite strangely enough, it's a hybrid procedure, and it's a very unique one. There are only about 4 or 5 done in Pakistan, and we're quite proud to say that this is a procedure done at the institution, which spares a kind of off machine and obviously saving the venous access and the arterial access complications. Cardiac electrophysiology. So when I joined back in 2013, we were actually just implanting simple Brady pacing. I joined as a specialist registrar then, and believe me, I was actually at the brink of departing away from Pakistan, going abroad. But when I just heard about the institution, I thought I might as well try applying over here. And when I did, honestly, I think one of the reasons I'm still sitting in the country is because I got such a good platform, such supportive staff, such great administration, such wonderful colleagues. It's more of a family rather than just colleagues, that they enabled me and they supported me. It was very hard convincing many beyond the institution that how important cardiac electrophysiology is, but I was very fortunate that I was never let down by my team and by my seniors, my colleagues. They supported me at every corner, and hence that's what I believe, that it's never a one-man show, it's a team effort that has to be there together. So we implanted devices from 2013, catheter ablation. We were very lucky to actually procure the equipment, which is one of the top of the line in the world, actually, and that was started in December 2015. Interestingly, when I viewed it over here, they were obviously we do get adult electrophysiologists. But when I came back from my fellowship, I also introduced the pediatric electrophysiology services as well, because there was a significant portion of patients which had to travel down south to the institutions that were performing it to some extent. And obviously travel is not a luxury for everyone to have. So I just felt that the northern areas of Pakistan, especially in Punjab, needed the service. So me and my team, we introduced the pediatric electrophysiology services as well. So till to date, we've done almost catheter ablations, which have included obviously the radio frequency, cryo system, conventional systems, the 3D, more than 1,000 cases. And these don't only include the simple supraventricular tachycardias, which obviously were the first ones which we started and embarked on this journey. Having said this, we're performing complex arrhythmia ablations in the form of AF catheter ablation. And it's not just merely just one or two ablations. We've done almost 70 plus ablations, and it's a service. It's something where indeed finances are not taken into account. In other words, where the patient requires it on a merit basis, we perform cryo and we perform 3D with radio frequency. So we are very much proud of this as well, that we are the first public hospital and to perform this in Pakistan as a service. And we started this interestingly in the days of COVID. Similarly, we've just recently embarked on cutting-edge cardioneural ablation, and we're one of the first centers in Pakistan, and this was done very recently. SCAR VTs, ischemic VTs, we've been doing for a year or so, as I've already mentioned, atrial arrhythmias and vesicular VTs. We've also done a few fluoroless ablations since the past year, because again, we've had patients coming in with pregnancies or contraindications to x-rays. We felt this was a need that we needed to embark on, and we needed to push the boundaries further. Again, I'm extremely grateful, because the thing is this: without any gadgetry, without appropriate funding, this wouldn't have been possible. And obviously, I'm grateful to the whole team of the institution that understood the need, that this is much needed in the whole region, and they did support the cause. Device therapies. So we've done almost more than 2,800 device therapies since 2013. Initially, until last year, it was myself that was working, but I'm very glad to have one of my fellow consultants join me, and now we've got a fellowship training program in place as well. So not only we're doing Brady pacing, but interestingly, we're doing the cutting edge conduction system pacing, and we were actually one of the first centers to perform it back in 2020. However, again, due to the presence of COVID, things had to take a step back, but since COVID has been away, we've started ramping it up, and we've performed almost about 30-40 left bundle pacings and his bundle pacings. Cardiac resynchronization therapy has been there since I've returned back in 2017. ICDs, implantable loop recorders as well. This is something, again, these are very dear and costly equipments, but they're present in-house where needed and where appropriate. Again, regardless of the funding, we've been offering this. Mechanical lead extractions with the limited funds. Obviously, we felt that mechanical lead extraction would be the best way out, and completing the whole paradigm, the whole inventory and the armamentarium for the EP, we felt this was much indeed a need. On the horizon, we do expect that we're going to be seeing, we're trying to set up inherited cardiac channelopathies and cardiomyopathy services. And recently, I was talking to Professor Anjum. He's gone to PSE, but we're trying very, very hard to have him back, because we need people like him at our institution. And we're considering ganglionic sympathetic ganglionectomies for patients with long QTs and congenital problems. So obviously, with all these things coming into place, we wish to take it even further. We quite proudly say we have a wonderful cardiac imaging suite, and Professor Jalal has also already just given you a bird's eye view regarding the equipment that we have, and we're absolutely very fortunate to have a cardiac MR, which is one of its own kind, and it's a 3 Tesla with high definition. And obviously, it's not only having the machine, it's having the expertise in reading the images, processing the images, and we're fortunate to have wonderful cardiologists actually who are taking a keen interest in the imaging services in the institution. Again, we're indebted to all the stroke intervention team, the management. They have tried tooth and nail in procuring one of the top of the line ultra-fast Canon Aquilon 1 high-resolution CT, which is a 640 slice CT. And I think it's one of the only kind that's actually present in any of the hospitals, public hospitals in Pakistan. So again, these are not machines which are just literally sitting there. These are actually machines which are being used purposefully on a daily basis, and really we don't have any downtimes because we've got a wonderful biomedical and administrative team who understands the importance of these equipments. Cardiac CT, 128 slice, single source, we have this. We also take great pride in having the only gamma camera in the public sector hospitals, in the cardiac hospitals initially for the radionuclide scans. Obviously the run-of-the-mill, the ultrasonography, Dopplers, the X-rays, and all of these require a wonderful team of radiologists, which we have, and we've got consultants who are working around the clock and making it fruitful for the patients. The average daily OPD, this is just a bird's eye view of the services that we're seeing. We're giving, obviously, these numbers in 2023 are only half-year numbers that we've not received, we've not touched the full year, but we are almost touching around about 2,080 patients on a daily basis, even more so at times on this. And we've got a wonderful HMIS, electronic medical record system, which is in place, and it helps us maintain the patient data from which obviously we can take out a lot of information for different purposes. The annual echo and the ETT, as you can see, obviously being a dip in the COVID days, but despite that, we did not stop our services and we kept on giving the services. So the green bar showing the echoes and obviously the blue bar showing the ETTs. So there's a significant amount that is done per year, and these are only during the daytime numbers. Obviously in the evening, we have institutional practice, which obviously adds to these in addition to all of what you're seeing on the screen. Nuclear cardiology and cardiac CT, as I've already said, these machines are there not just to sit, but to work. And obviously they are being made to work and they are being maintained at a very, very wonderful level. So we're very fortunate to have these machines up and about, because obviously when you're working, you want everything under one roof and you don't want to be sending the patient from one place to another just simply to undergo some investigation. So the numbers, as you can see, they're quite high. They're being performed in-house, and I think we're doing all sorts of cardiac CTs. It's not only coronary, we're doing structural. Obviously, being an EP guy, we demand a lot of structural input from our radiology department, cardiac imaging, and I'm pretty confident in saying that they're doing a marvelous job. So what about academics? So in terms of academics, well, we are American Heart Association a certified site for the BLS and the ACLS, and that's only one of the 2 or 3 sites that is there actually in the Twin Cities. And I think this is something, as we all recognize, the pre-hospital services and emergency services are something which are only in the developing phase in the country, and we felt this is a much needed requirement for the community. So we're not only training actually just simply the hospital staff or the doctors or the nurses, but also the well-known 112 services are actually also in process of being trained, and we're taking great pride in actually giving them assistance and getting their personnel trained as well. Obviously, there's a lot of capacity building of various hospitals that we are helping. In the previous government, a few of the hospitals down south needed our assistance, so many of the doctors came along and they got trained, further trained at our emergencies and obviously cath labs, and now they've gone down back to those primary places they have came from, and they're performing their duties. And I was very fortunate to recently visit, and it was a great sense of pride as well, where I was seeing that all all the hard work that was done by the Rawalpindi Institute of Cardiology and its team is actually paying dividends, because I was seeing these people perform things which, if they had not visited, they would not have perhaps had the opportunity to provide services to in those regions. We have certified proctors and for Medtronic and Boston Scientific on our team, which means the physicians, the consultants, myself, Dr. Asim, and a few others. So Dr. Asim, he's very much proctoring for stroke intervention, peripheral and carotid intervention, advanced coronary imaging as well. He's doing very regular workshops, and it's quite astounding to see that. Myself, atrial fibrillation, catheter ablation proctoring, and obviously device implantation. So it's not only just knowing what we know, it's actually we're trying to disseminate the knowledge and provide the services to all our colleagues. As for academics, obviously, there has to be a training program. We are recognized by the well-known College of Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan for the fellowship programs, of which specialties I'll just mention. We're also recognized by the University of Health Sciences, accredited by the Pakistan Medical Dental Council. And for the health sciences, obviously, these are the MS, MD, and diploma cardiology programs. The specialities for which we are recognized by these institutions are cardiology, interventional cardiology, cardiac electrophysiology, cardiac surgery, anesthesia, cardiothoracic anesthesia, pediatric cardiology, and diagnostic radiology. So just to mention the numbers that we have generated. So in July 2013, when I joined as a SPR, there were only 6 postgraduate trainees then who were just under 2 specialties, FCPS cardiology and FCPS cardiac surgery. And since actually 2013, almost 45 of those who have completed their training have passed their fellowships. And currently, as we speak, there are almost about 87 postgraduate trainees dispersed in all these programs of FCPS, MS, and MD, and they're undergoing training currently at our institution. To date, not only doctors, physicians, and surgeons, but also internees. We've almost trained 1,600 internees till today, since the inception of this hospital back almost in July 2013. So the academics, what does it consist of? Well, daily, since Dr. Anjum Jalal has came along for the past 3-4 years, we've just been doing every day. It kicks off with a daily audit of the primary PCIs that have been done, the stroke codes that have been done, and the stroke interventions. In addition, there's also a mortality audit, and this is done on a daily basis. Followed by this are the academic sessions for the trainees, fellows, senior fellows, and obviously all colleagues who wish to attend. So on Mondays, we've got journal clubs, guidelines, clinical cases. So on every 3rd Monday, we have clinical short cases and long cases, which obviously is the spirit of medicine in its own way. Tuesdays, we have the interventional cardiology sessions for the audits. Wednesdays, we have the EP and the ECG sessions, which I conduct along with my team. And on every final Wednesday of the month, the imaging gets the opportunity to share all their knowledge, and obviously clinical case discussions are done. Thursday, we have the CATH conference, where obviously all the complex cases are discussed, whether it's surgery, whether pediatric, interventional cardiology, cardiac surgery. On Fridays, there's an interventional cardiology fellows session. And on Saturday, there's the clinical pathological conference, obviously clinical case presentations in terms of short cases and long cases. So as I've already mentioned, we are regularly organizing and conducting workshop sessions. And again, I think the bulk, without any debate, the leadership has been there right from the front, is Dr. Asim, who's our head of department for the cardiology. MashaAllah, he's been conducting all sorts of courses. He's literally taken it as a personal challenge that he's going to go all across Pakistan and then obviously disseminate the knowledge and make everyone more wise. And we're very proud of this. He's been conducting workshops along with the other team members in terms of peripheral vascular interventions, IFR, FFR, stroke intervention, carotid intervention, and obviously the IVUS as well. So these are obviously audiovisual in nature, but then the second phase of all of these workshops includes doctors and physicians coming in small groups to our institution institution and performing hands-on under supervision. So really, I think this is a treat to have, and we're very lucky to have such a personality amongst us at our institution. So these are various pictures where the institution has been over the newspapers for all the right reasons. This was back in 2018 when the stroke intervention was embarked formally. We've been representing Pakistan at the international levels, and we've also been obviously serving as panelists, speakers, faculties at local, national and international levels in all specialities, and this makes us very proud. So obviously with the advent of this technology, we've been providing webinars as well, where we are educating people, especially physicians, general physicians, cardiologists, colleagues through the internet. Similarly, we've been not only doing just interventional, but clinical cardiology, heart failure, clinical cardiorenal syndromes. We've been conducting, we're having workshops on these. We're having cardioneural ablations, atrial fibrillation catheter ablations, workshops being performed. Similarly, these are just a few pictures of when we launched back in 2020 the AF catheter ablation services with the cryo, and then subsequently with the 3D, and we've been doing it since then regularly without any assistance whatsoever. Research publications, we're very fortunate. We've got almost about 50 consultants working with us, and most of them, if you would believe that, were trained and developed within our own center. So these were trainees who were part of the RIC family, and then they have received training for their FCPS cardiology, for their further level 4, such as interventional cardiology, and they are now working as the appropriate senior consultants in our and junior consultants in our setups, which is again a great moment of pride. And I think one of the strengths of the hospital, because we know each other so well that everybody's willing to help and come to terms with each other. So the publications we've been publishing not only at the local level, but we have already been publishing and been in collaboration for research at the international level as well, not only in interventional cardiology, but cardiac surgery, electrophysiology, for imaging. And this is just a glimpse of what we've been doing. Obviously, everybody's been having a very busy schedule, but despite all the odds, everybody's got this keen interest to contribute to medical literature. So not only publications, but also representing the country, the institution at an international level, pediatric cardiology, the radiology departments. They have been amazing and actually performing at the international levels at various conferences. Currently, as we speak, we're part of a multi-centric international randomized controlled trial that is being done across many centers, and mashallah, such things we look to be part of in the future as well. So registries already mentioned, the CROP registry, we're part of that. National EF registry, that is something which, because currently I'm also holding the position for the General Secretary for the Pakistan Heart Rhythm Society, I'm in pursuance of all of this, and we are collaborating with major institutions across Pakistan, down south and in Punjab as well, to have this, and we've already started making gains on it. Similarly, the cardiac electronic devices, implantable devices such as the pacing, CRTs, we're also part of this registry, and we've utilized the e-card system and the NCDR, and we've made hybrid registries for the institution, as well as for the assisting along for the national registries as well. Ongoing and future plans, inshallah, there are actually research trials going on, and some about to just take off very soon in cardiac surgery. Similarly, we're trying to embark on, from the EP point of view, in some atrial fibrillation outcomes, because we're probably the largest center performing, and we take great pride, and we hope to come out with data of the outcomes in this. Cardioneural, it's very new in all across the globe for symptomatic bradycardias and AF, so we are also about to conduct some of the trials for this. Left bundle pacing, again, is something I think very, very economical for resynchronization, especially for the South Asia, and I think this is something we are also actually looking forward to bring data out in that. So with this, I would just like to conclude and pay my regards. Once again, I'm indebted to the Society of North America and obviously to all the panelists over here. With this, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Talha Bin Nazir and Dr. Anjum Jalal, for this very comprehensive and extensive review of your facilities and the efforts that you've been involved. If I can please ask you to stop sharing your screen. I think we're a little over time. Maybe we can have a couple of comments from Dr. Zair and Dr. Sarwa. There, I see that the chat box and Q&A is kind of lighting up with so many questions and comments. I'm not sure we can get to them because we're over time. Dr. Zair, would you like to make some comments, please?
Thank you, Dr. Sarfraz, and really, it's an eye-opener, unbelievable story from Professor Anjum and Dr. Talha, and particularly sharing the pathway to the international cardiologists who are planning to come to Pakistan. I have yet to see such a crisp recipe and well thought and, substantiated by the experience. So that is unbelievable, and that's the strategy which is going to work. And just one, there was a question from somebody from UK, London, from the, because they had that question that how can we provide the 24/7 facility for PCI in Pakistan, because that's still we are aiming for in the developing countries. The question is to Professor Anjum Jalal, and then it's over to Professor Sarwat. Thank you. Professor Jalal, can you unmute and please respond to this question?
Oh, yes. I actually typed the answer in the message box as well when I noticed that question. The answer is that RIC started this service much earlier, and there was speculations whether it is sustainable or not because of financial impact as well as manpower. And then it took nearly 3 years for the rest of the community to understand that this is extremely important. And recent past, this caretaker government appointed a cardiologist as a special envoy to Chief Minister. And he is Dr. Farkadalangi from UK. He was asked by the Chief Minister what we can do specifically for a short period of time, which can create some impact. And he very rightly said that we should start the program of primary PCI. That program has been started from February this year, and it is now monitored by the government. It is all across Punjab, and all the major cardiac centers are part of it. And we meet every Monday morning at 9 o'clock where we share our data, and that is rigorously monitored, that whether the true indications have been followed and what kind of outcomes were there. Regarding its audit of door to needle or door to device time, RIC has been following, as Dr. Talha has said, for the last 3 years. We have not missed it for a single day. So we do the audit very rigorously. Other institutions have yet to develop this kind of audit program in their own institutions. But the service has been started. The next phase is the program called Drip and Ship, where we have an extensive network of district hospitals. All of these district hospitals have CCUs. So we have to link the major cardiac centers with the surrounding district hospitals. And they will start the thrombolytic therapy and send the patient over with the 1122 ambulance service. That system will take several months to function properly. It is still in early phase. So at least we have primary PCI program for those who reach the major cardiac institutions at the moment.
Professor Sarwat, it is over to you because your specialty is radiology and you have seen their state-of-the-art labs. So I look forward to your comment, please.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, every time there is our APPNA seminar every 2 weeks, in between I listen to the politics and I get depressed. And then, the high point of my life is the 2 days in a month that I hear our totally outstanding work that so many of our colleagues in Pakistan are doing and sacrificing. It's amazing, really amazing. But since the time is short, I would apologetically comment that I think the illustrious people who presented today are underutilizing their resources, their talent, their data, their everything, until they write their own textbooks of cardiology and cardiac surgery. And like Dr. Jalal said, that, our country is different, our diseases are different, our resources are different, so many things are different from the textbooks that we read that written by the Western, high income countries, that we need to produce our own books so that the low and middle income country patients and doctors can practice within the confines of their resources and their disease pattern. That's all I have to say. I have a few other things to say too, but the time is short, so I'm just going to get Dr. Jalal, who is incidentally, Dr. Shahryar Sheikh was at the Punjab Institute of Cardiology. I'm his classmate.
Well, thank you very much. So actually, you have given me the assignment for my post-retirement days. So that's probably the time when I should start writing the books. My personal point of view was that without solid data, if you write any book, it will be just a personal opinion. So the first thing which I started was in 2003 by establishing the database. Now we are in a position to write down the analysis of 50,000 patients, and we will clearly know that what is the disease pattern and what are their outcomes. And then, of course, with all our experience and how we innovated things and try to improvise in difficult situations, we'll sum up our experience with the backup of all that data. So then probably we will be able to write down something meaningful. Otherwise, up till now, it would have been just the personal opinions or a few case reports. Writing down the textbook is a major undertaking. Thank you very much for giving us the inspiration, and I think we will have to do that.
Absolutely. So this is actually an excellent point, Dr. Jalal, about having the database, because for clinical research, as you rightly pointed out, this is something which is needed. So on this note, I know we are over our time limit. So I know that there are a number of questions there. Regretfully, we would not be able to entertain that because we like to finish on time. But again, I would like to thank Professor Anjum Jalal and Dr. Talha Bin Nazir, both of you, for your time and an excellent and comprehensive overview. And also what Dr. Sarwat just said, that, inspiring us, instilling hope when there is so much to be hopeless about. And so thank you so much for doing that. And I really appreciate your time with your busy schedules, having 900,000 patients a year. I don't even know how you even sleep, but it's definitely a mammoth task that you have undertaken. So thank you. And for all the participants, apologize for not taking your questions, but we will be back in 2 weeks with another of our series in the APPNA MERIT research landscape in Pakistan. So please stay tuned and we'll see you later. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.